I'm wondering what you make of the decision that our government has made at the moment when it comes to repatriation flights and the pause on these flights from India, and also the threat of jail time and a big fine for anyone who tries to do that.
Well, I've had to take to the United Nations Tribunal the situation of Australians who are kept out of their own country and not allowed back by airline quotas and so on, because it's international law requires that citizens of countries should be allowed to go back home. And it's always had this, it's a natural feeling that you have in a country that you've been born, brought up in, or whatever, that it will protect you and that you're entitled to return. That's what international law says, and the Australian government has been ordered to defend itself. It will do so. They've also been asked to get my clients back, which I hope they will shortly. They're all vaccinated and prepared to do quarantine. But this is a further development, and what strikes me as pretty amazing as an Australian is that this law, 5 years imprisonment for returning home, or trying to, is never been approved by Parliament. I mean, we live in a democracy. We have a constitution that provides for a democracy, and the basis of democracy is that the government can't send you to prison unless the law has been debated and passed by Parliament. And we're having a lot of MPs this morning saying, I never knew that we agreed this in the Biosecurity Act. I suspect that's because they didn't read it, because it's an enormous act. And if you get to statute section 475(9), you find that it gives this health minister a dictatorial power, in effect, to declare people guilty of a crime carrying 5 years imprisonment. That was never discussed. I looked at the debates in Parliament on the Act. No one mentioned it. Maybe they didn't read far enough. But it does seem to me that we are in danger of breaking what is known as the rule of law, because the minister from the top of his head is introducing this law.
Geoffrey, sorry to interrupt. The Prime Minister said this morning that the chances of any Australians being fined or jailed during this suspension are pretty much zero. Is that accurate?
Well, who knows? I mean, here is a Prime Minister laying down the law, threatening jail. I've read Mr. Hunt's release. He threatens jail in no uncertain terms if any Australian tries to get home from India. And then the Prime Minister says, oh, we're not going to enforce the law. Well, make up your mind. This is, according to the Health Minister, who's given these dictatorial powers to create a law out of his own head. MPs are saying we never approved it. We never voted for this kind of situation. It's basic that in a democracy you don't go to prison unless Parliament has debated and passed a law. And here the Prime Minister is saying, oh, well, we won't enforce it. That seems to be a pretty lazy attitude.
But is it legal? Is it legal? Can someone be sent to jail or fined if they do this? Or is it unconstitutional?
I think that it's arguably unconstitutional because it's implicit in the Australian Constitution that it provides for a democracy, and this is not a democratic use of power. But it's possible for the High Court to strike down convictions if anyone does try to get home and is thrown into jail and not into quarantine. It would be possible for the High Court to say that the statute was contrary to the Constitution, but that takes a long time and it takes a lot of money. So I think the MPs have woken up this morning to realise what they've done back in 2015, and it's a lesson for them, and it's a pretty unsatisfactory situation. We have little Taiwan this morning under much greater threat from China than Australia. organising rescue flights for its citizens trapped in India. And
Okay.
Australia is doing nothing.